and we are super excited. Thank you all so much for watching. We do want to quickly just let our Facebook viewers know that we are going to be back on Facebook Live in just another week. We do apologize for not live streaming on Facebook over the last 2 weeks, but we will be back officially next week on Facebook Live. So, those that are watching us on YouTube and LinkedIn, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Do us a favor and share this out. So, if you're on LinkedIn, just repost it. If you want to say something nice while you're reposting, that's awesome. Comment to let us know you're in the building. If there's something resonating with you, put it into the chat box. We want to acknowledge it. And of course, we want to wish everyone a happy mental health month. It is mental health month. It is May, all things mental health. And so today we have one of our very own, our dearest Reena, our school social worker, who has an amazing, amazing story that she'll be sharing with us, as well as her work with iRaise. So we're in for a treat. Stay with us until the end. We're only here for 30 minutes. We're really excited. So, and don't forget, lastly, to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We see our subscribers are going up. We appreciate you for subscribing. Please do, when we have new episodes released, new content, new shows, you will be the first to be notified and to stay connected. So go ahead and subscribe right now. And if you are enjoying this video as we're going along, make sure you like it for us. All right, let's get started. Hey, Reena, thanks for being here over there.
Hi.
How are you today, Reena?
I'm doing good. I'm currently at the elementary today. So elementary is usually like busy and running around. So
I love it. I love that you're like right in the field right now. And what school are you at today?
I'm at PS 189. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah.
So shout out to all my Bronx folks that are watching. She's at 189, so she is in the Bronx. So Reena is actually one of our very own school social workers, as I mentioned, and I want to read a little bit about her bio, and then we're going to jump into today's focus, which is mental health and immigrant youth, which is a topic that we are very passionate about here at iRaise. We recognize that our kids, our young people that have migrated to the U.S. are dealing with very unique issues surrounding acclimating to this new country, being disconnected from their families, and from so many other things. And we have Reena here with us. She'll share her personal story, but also her expertise in this area. So Reena is a licensed school social worker for iRaise. She was born and raised in Hawaii, and seeks to explore the diversity in cultures among various groups whilst finding possible ways to improve their well-being and meet their needs or give any support needed. Reena left Hawaii and attended Mount Sinai Mary's University in Los Angeles, California for her undergraduate degree and graduated from Columbia University School of Social Work, shout out, in 2022, excuse me. And through her work, she's focused on the mental health aspect specifically for youth and hopes to expand within the Asian and immigrant communities in the near future. That is beautiful. Thank you again, Reena, so much for being with us while you're in the field.
Thank you. No problem.
So tell us, what is your day-to-day look like in iRaise as a school social worker? We know you're in 189 right now, but what do you typically do in your day-to-day?
A lot of commuting. Just like going into the Bronx and everything. Usually with like every day, I go to different, so throughout the week I go to different schools. I'm in 3 schools as of right now. And then it's kind of like I'm in a high school, I'm in another high school the next day, and then I'm at 189, and then I'm back in high schools again. So it's kind of just like it's like bouncing around, but it was hard at first, but I got used to it, and then the adjustment's pretty easy to acclimate towards. My day-to-day really consists, well, meeting the students, of course, like talking to them individually, and also like meeting and having conversations with the faculty and staff. Most of the time, especially at the elementary, it's with principals, and just calling parents, talking to meeting them too, just giving them updates and seeing how their child has been doing, and if there's any like things that we may need as like part of IRAs as well too. That's usually my every day to day. Before I guess like before May, we also had interns. So it was also like working together as a team, seeing how like what we could do with the schedules with our own schedule, and then with the students as well too. Just trying to make time for such a short school days.
Absolutely.
But yes, the interns aren't here, so there's a little bit more time, but obviously we're still focusing on the students, continuing our work and going beyond what we typically do. So we have events and any like events and activities for the students.
I love it. When you're meeting with students, what are some of um the topics or issues you're meeting around?
Mhm. So a lot of it has to do. Oh, I'm gonna focus on the elementary just because I'm here too. A lot of it has to do with like behavioral defiance, kind of just like trying to teach them how to work within the classroom. Some of them do have education, like educational needs as well too. Although we don't really focus on that, we still do inform the school about like the support that the students may need as well. Like there's a whole like support system for all these students that need it and like own specific cares. Like for one student, there's one like I guess like he's dealing with ADHD. So we were just trying to focus on how we could make him focus within the schools. I mean within the classroom, trying to see how he behaves as well, but also like having that support because like sometimes he struggles with like um, building friendships and all that too. For high schools, it's mainly more towards mental health, more so just like depression, anxiety, trying to figure out like what out like building social skills. A lot of them have to deal with as well,
Mhm.
and really just like trying to work together, see what works and what doesn't work. Because I know that a lot of plans that we do is like trial and error. So we're like, okay, what exactly can we do to improve for next time?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that because every child requires such a unique approach. No child is the same. So we're gathering information and assessing a child. It's a continual assessment
Yeah.
as we're meeting with them. We may focus on one particular intervention, but if the child is not responding to that treatment or that intervention, we may need to come back to the drawing board and begin to readjust and make modifications.
Hmm.
So I love that you're doing that in that space with our high schoolers.
Of course. I feel like that's what is needed, especially for their age too. I know that like social work, like what I love about social work is that like there's so much going on and like there's always things that are changing, but at the same time it's like it's needed at the same time. So for the students, like there's like a standard or like a protocol that we all can use, but that won't necessarily fit the student because of their personality, the values or their beliefs. So really just targeting, I think it's kind of like a I don't want to say like recipe. It's kind of just like fitting it into their like or like molding it into what they need and like
Right.
trying to make it into like the best way possible for them.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the cultural aspect because I think that's a large part of mental health is understanding the culture of that young person or that client that you're working with. Can you tell me a little more about your maybe your personal experience, if you've had any, in a realm of dealing with a system and you didn't feel like your culture was being taken into consideration? And how that may have influenced you as a social worker.
Hmm. Good question. I think like well, I guess for cultural, like I was born and raised in Hawaii, but I'm Filipino actually too. So in a way, like growing up, like I was surrounded by Filipinos, so it's kind of like the culture was already in there.
Right.
But I think as I grew older and became more aware of like my surroundings and who I am as a person, culture does in fact like affect I guess like our upbringing or the lifestyle that we have, especially being Filipino. I'm also a child of immigrants too. I was like one of the few in my family that were like born and raised in the United States
Wow.
too. So that's that. So I guess like cultural wise, as you grow older, it's like you kind of are more aware of like who you are, because like, I didn't really be aware of how I was Filipino until like I came into as I went to California, or like I came to New York. Like it's culture is like a big part of everyone's life, or like specifically mine too, as well as our identity. And like the way that we work through life with our values, the way that we think is affected by our culture
Yeah.
too. And just like what I guess like for us, like how we approach things, whether it's education or like people or society as
Right.
well.
And it's really interesting because you grew up in Hawaii, but you're Filipino, and so it's almost like two cultures in one. And then you come here to New York and U.S. and then you now are adapting more. How has that influenced or shaped you as a individual?
It's been like it's very complex. I feel like it's a very good conversation starter, because they're like, oh, I'm from Hawaii, oh, I'm Filipino, and all of that stuff. Like it goes down a rabbit hole in there. But also, I think a lot of it is trained. I think when I was growing up, because like since my family were immigrants too, I kind of had to not only adapt to or like try to learn my culture, but also learn about society and our environment as well too. So things like if I knew how to speak English, like we had ELA, I had to do that when I was younger, because my family spoke Ilocano and all of that too. It was like it wasn't as bad, I think, because like I was so used to it. But obviously, when you grow old, like when I grew older and when I came here too, um, it really shaped, like I guess, my identity, because I identity becomes so important when you grow older too. Like I can't just say I'm a girl. Like I know I'm a Filipino woman born in Hawaii. All of that, first generation. Like all of these things are like the list. What goes on too. Um, I think like it makes me feel very proud of like my upbringing, and like I guess like being proud as an individual as well. uh just having like all these opportunities, and like having like so much things that you're learning from, especially at such a young age, where I could use that into practice as well.
I love that. How do you feel like that experience helps you to relate to the issues that immigrant youth are dealing with today?
I think one thing I think one thing that was most important is like the connection, because I think like growing up, we didn't actually have a social worker in our school, which was surprising when I found out like there was school social work. Yeah. So when talking about that, it was just very like I felt very like I wish I had that kind of thing, and I want to be that for like the students too. Sometimes like a lot of people don't, like, because we were immigrants, or like we have immigrant parents, like it's hard for a lot of people to understand like where we're coming from, because not only have we like it's that thing, or like that split where you want to keep the culture, your values, your
Mhm.
beliefs intact with you, because that's part of like your part of who you are, but also you want to assimilate yourself into society, and like be part of it, or else you'll be an outcast too. So I think working with these students, like, or even with the families, helps me understand like what like because of my background, it helps me understand and very much empathize with them, like what they're going through.
And that's so powerful, Rena, that you say that, because I do believe that a lot of times there is such a disconnection between um, this word that we like to use that I don't like to say, compliance, right? the parent is not being compliant and that kind of stuff. When in reality, sometimes there's really just a cultural barrier, whether it's language or whether it's tradition or whether it's belief. Sometimes there really is a barrier that we're not recognizing exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're speaking to that barrier when you're talking about parents who are immigrants and they are just learning to navigate through a new society and trying to teach their kids to do the same. I'm wondering if you can speak a little to those issues, to issues that immigrant parents are dealing with today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one, like the biggest thing is like language barrier, because like you're coming into a new country and you have to basically learn a whole new language too. So that really could restrain or have like such bad like miscommunication towards that, because the game telephone, one thing could change into another thing as well too. um like I guess when I was growing up, I didn't really understand what my parents went through until like I
Mhm.
actually like talked to them about it too. Because some of these students or some of the immigrant families and youth too, like um they're first gen or they're low income, like similar background to where I grew up. So there was like a lot of things that I guess growing up, we're more aware of what's happening with our families as well too, because not only are we trying like as youth, we're trying to do well in school and everything, but there's also like financial issues as well with families, and sometimes that takes a toll on them. And like having jobs that having a job that takes like 16 hours of their entire day as well. So um so I guess when it comes to social work, like it's hard to reach parents as well too, because they're always working. Or like I said, language barrier, like we have to do translation lines, and sometimes like they could be accurate or they could be inaccurate as well too. Just trying to understand, especially with mental health.
Yeah.
I think that's like a huge factor or challenge to really grasp for the parents and the youth as is.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. And thank you for hitting on that. You talked about some of the systemic barriers that exist in society for immigrant parents that may not know how to navigate the necessary systems to survive and to live in a new society, but also to raise children effectively in a new society. When it comes to mental health, this is such um, uh, I think just something we really need to start destigmatizing on so many levels, but more specifically with immigrant parents, when you're coming to them, telling them that we need to engage you into potentially working with your child to deal with something like anxiety or ADHD or another type of mental health challenge. What are the barriers? What does that typically look like? What
I would say sometimes, I don't know, it feel like maybe, well, this is coming from my experience
Yeah.
too. So I guess like in Asian culture and family culture, like mental health isn't really talked at all. Growing up, like it wasn't really something that we thought about because we were so focused on other things like like finances and education for us too. As I think like the teenage years were hard. I think so, because we start to learn more about ourselves and like become more aware of our emotions. And like I guess my entire time, my adolescence, I don't think I've ever like spoke about mental health with my parents.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was, if I told them, they would just keep on asking why, and like I would tell them, but at the end it's like you're going in circles, you're going in loops for that. And one thing that was like so hard for like them to really understand too was how or I kind of understood the way that I guess my family or my parents kind of focused on mental health was like how I was always told not to cry.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, I was always told not to cry, and I didn't understand why. But I think like it showed a sign of weakness to them too. So there was like instances where like I was about to cry, and then my mom would say like, "Don't cry. Why are you crying? Don't cry," and all that stuff too. Um, it like it's been suppressed, which is very unfortunate. Um, in within my family, and it's like hard to kind of bounce back or like try to bring it back to bring it back into light too, especially since I'm older. Like it's still hard to this day. um, and just like the willingness, I guess, to be open with mental health is really hard. Like they always think it's a bad thing, or like when mental illness, a lot of them would just say like, oh, they're crazy, or they're not right in the head and everything, without like really digging deep into the situation.
Yeah. That was really, really profound. Thank you for sharing that. Sounds like when it's embedded in your culture and when you grow up and your parents are telling you to hold your emotions or don't show it, it does become a part of who you are. And it becomes a coping mechanism to survive through pain. And I think it's what's interesting, Rena, is you and our culture is almost two in one as a black woman. I don't know if we're told not to cry, but we're told things like we just got to do what we got to do, and we can't
Mhm.
necessarily show emotions. We got to survive. And what that does, it does suppress a part of us. It suppresses the real part of us, right? The part
Mhm.
that makes us who we are, our mind, our will, our emotions. We tend to put that on the back burner, but that's the part that we really need to focus more on. So I love, despite growing up and not being allowed to cry because it showed weakness, that you still were able to venture on a journey to now become the hero for many kids that I'm sure you tell all the time. It's okay to show emotions. It's okay to cry. It's
Mhm.
actually a strength when you can do that, not a weakness.
Mhm. Yeah, like I think that I kind of went in a good path when it came to that too, because I knew for a fact that I didn't want that to happen to a lot of people. Like I didn't want them to go through what I went through, because that path is rough too, and like it's kind of hard to get out. Like I know to this day there's like a lot of people that still continue on that cycle,
Mm,
and really think like that, like they continue it, like don't cry, why are you crying, like or like they just don't want to express their emotions, and like shut down too. So I want to make aware, to make people known, especially with the youth too, because some of that, because I think around these ages, like whether element, like childhood in general, I think it's a really good time for them to really like be aware of what that means too.
I love that. And it's given language to what you're feeling, right? And some people may not want to deal with emotions because they don't know how to, or most people don't know what they're feeling because they weren't taught to understand or identify what feelings and emotions are. So some people may even be depressed, but may not know they are because they were told to ignore those types of feelings or ignore, certain things and to keep going. So I think there is a lot of education that needs to go on around educating people on what emotions are, what mental health is. Mental health does not mean you have a mental illness. Mental health is your state of well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone needs a wellness check. Every year we go to the doctor, right? Hopefully to get a physical checkup because we got to make sure we're doing well, we're growing well, that there are no abnormalities or any of that sort. But we don't get wellness checkups, right? That doesn't, it's not a part of our society, at least not right now. Although
Mm-hmm.
we're doing a lot of the work now to talk about mental health. But how often do we just go and say, I just want to do wellness check. I just want to talk to a therapist and work through the fact that there are some unresolved things in my childhood that still affect me today,
Mm-hmm.
that I want to talk about, that I want to work through.
Yeah, like I guess like for that too, like when it comes to going to the doctor, like they do like a physical, and then they do like, oh, like the little checks and everything.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just says like, are you depressed? Yes or no. Or
Right.
do you have anxiety? Yes or no? And if
Yeah.
you even put yes, or even if you put yes, I don't think they do anything about it.
Yeah,
Or
that part.
yeah.
That part. So my opinion is we need more collaboration and streamlined services between medical and mental health. I believe that the two are so integral, yet they work so separately in our society. I'd love to see a healthcare system where mental health professionals and medical doctors work in tandem with each other for the betterment of people's health
Hmm.
holistically.
Hmm.
That is the world that I envision. I think that's why our work is so crucial, because we have to find ways to bring parties together. A lot of times, patients may go to the hospital, but they're having a panic attack and they're not having a heart attack.
Hmm.
But then once they're cleared, no, you're not, you're fine. Your vitals are great. Everything is well. It was a panic attack. What happens to that person after they're just sent home? They're not then triaged to a mental health professional that can help them work through those unresolved mental health issues.
Right. Yeah, of course. Like I also hope for that too, because I feel like there's such a huge divide into it. Especially like, when people go into medical field and all that stuff too. Um, like I have friends who are like in med school and PA school too. And then I mentioned something about mental health. Like they do some things, but I don't think it's like part of it, or like it's not heavily integrated into that. And I think that's like one thing that should come up too. um I don't know if like how, like I'm wondering what's happening, I guess, with that too. Because I know that like now this day and age too, a lot of youth or like a lot of um young adults are just trying to promote mental health or emphasize more on mental health and see what we could and see what could be changed. But it's kind of like it's so heavily, mental health is so heavily rooted against like such a, I guess, negative connotation,
Yeah.
that it's so hard to come get out of it, and like systemically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I echo your sentiments. I think that's why we're doing the work we do. Why most of our work is spent undoing stigma,
Mm-hmm.
breaking stigma. Most of our work is talking to parents about, okay, we want to work with your child, but that doesn't mean your child is crazy or something is wrong with your child. It's just that they need extra support or extra guidance. And
Mm-hmm.
I think reframing and changing the narrative is a lot of our work as social workers, as mental health therapists, is that we have to educate and inform our community. And I believe that is our responsibility. It's taking a lot of time. Of course, we want it to be faster than this, but I think we've made some strides over the last 3 years since COVID towards
Mm-hmm.
educating our society on the fact that mental health is normal and okay to talk about. And it's not, doesn't have to be this mysterious, scary thing that we all hide from and we're like tiptoeing around. It can be something that we have in workspaces and we talk about in normal conversations. It can be something that parents understand and talk to their daughters and sons about. Can be something that married couples or couples talk about on a day to day, and sisters and brothers and so forth. Does not have to be this mysterious thing. And so, it's going to take us time to get there, but I think we are absolutely on our way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I feel like there has been so much improvement, and like the commit like COVID and everything, like the opening up of mental health too. It became normal for like the youth too. So like applauds
Yeah.
to them for doing something that we couldn't do when we
Oh,
were like them.
I love that. And it's so true. I feel like it's the young people today, which are see, I don't know if they're like Gen Z slash Alpha generation. They are the ones that are talking about it a lot more than we did. They're like not afraid to talk about emotions, and I love that about about this generation. Um, so I do want to ask a question because we are coming to a close and
Sure.
we're at 30 minutes. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. What message would you like to leave to parents and others that are watching as a message of encouragement?
Big question. But I think one thing that I always like always think or should make known is that mental health is often misunderstood, because it does leave a stigma. It does leave such a bad taste in like a lot of people's mouth. And like hearing the word depression or anxiety or even ADHD, like it causes like a reaction, like some sort of reaction to others too. But it really is just what you said, like focusing or like trying to be aware of our well-being, our mental well-being, and how we could overcome like the thoughts, the feelings that really can um, put us like that really can like affect us and put us down in life too, because mental health isn't just, just isn't just right now, isn't just for youth. Mental health is um, used all over throughout our lifetime. Like even Miss Moore has mental health. Like I have mental health too. A little child, a 5-year-old, has mental health. So it really goes across like the age spectrums as well. And like I guess with a lot of immigrant youth who are like struggling with with all of this, like just know that you're not alone, and that it's okay to cry, it's okay to have feelings, or just speak upon it, because like suppressing it will only make things worse. And like I hope that all of the youth can have a support system, whether it's in or out of school, or like with friends, family, close family friends who really understand you. And that life will get better, and there's gonna be more for you out there once like you open yourself up to that.
So beautiful, Reena. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your wisdom, your story. It's been such an honor to interview you, to listen to your diverse understanding and expertise on this matter. The world of our youth now are very blessed to have someone like Reena and many other social workers out there that are continuing the fight every single day. We know it's not easy. Our job is certainly not easy. And I think it's a call. You have to be called to this work. When you are in a business of saving lives and healing or facilitating people's healing, you have to be really called and purpose to this. So, shout out to all the social workers working hard every single day, to the mental health therapists, and to the family members of social workers, because they got to deal with all of our bringing it home and all that stuff. So thank you to all of our family members that put up with all of us when we have to unravel and let our hair down as well. Rita, thank you for the work that you're doing at iRaise. You're absolutely a gem. We truly appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, absolutely. And just wrapping up, everyone, we appreciate all of you for tuning in with us, for listening, and for joining us for this short fireside chat. We will certainly be back next week. And we will be back not just on YouTube and LinkedIn, but also on Facebook. So please do make sure you tune in, you share. If you enjoy this content, we do invite you to share it, to repost it, to comment. If you're watching this later on, no worries. We still would love to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to be connected and engage with you. Remember that you matter, young people, parents, whoever you are watching. Mental health is not something when it's not just something that we talk about when there's a problem. Mental health is our state of well-being. We should be talking about it every single day. So again, thank you all for watching, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our ATL Rise podcast. Every Friday, we have new episodes coming out. Tomorrow, you are in for a treat. We will be releasing a new episode with one of our mental health therapists out in Metro Atlanta, who's going to be sharing her experience, who actually went through a lot of trauma and right now is also doing a lot of human trafficking work. So you're gonna, if you are into this, do subscribe. If you are on Apple, use Apple Podcasts. If you're on the Android device, use Spotify or whatever else suits you. But we do want you to want to make sure you get the content. So please subscribe as soon as possible. I know on Fridays I'm checking my Apple Podcast app. I'm waiting for it to ding. I'm like, where's the episode? Because I want to hear the content. It's reviving, it's refreshing, it's uplifting, and it's empowering. And that's what these chats and these podcasts are all about. It's to bring relevant information. It's to uplift the things that matter most to us, so that you have the information needed to be empowered and to live a thriving life. Thank you all again. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month, y'all. And we will be back next week. Thank you, Reena. We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.